This evening, we are very honored to have with us Al Rubeling. Al Rubeling is a national leader. I'm going to read this because this is what I wrote to the provost. I don't think Al's read this. I didn't share it with him. But I'll read this to you because I think it really captured a lot of stuff that we felt, both the dean, myself, and other members of the faculty felt about Al. And I think it bears giving a kind of backstory, and then Al can come up and entertain us for the rest of the hour. And you get a full hour of this. So we'll all sit here. Nobody will leave because everybody was late. Nobody will leave. And this will be a great hour of discussion. Al Rubeling is a national leader in the practice of architecture. He is a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. The College of Fellows, founded in 1952, is composed of members of the Institute who are elected to fellowship by a jury of their peers. The fellowship is one of the highest honors that the AIA can bestow upon a member. An elevation to fellowship signifies the public and the professional, the profession, those who have made significant contributions to architecture and to society. In 2015, his peers further honored him by elevating him Chancellor of the College of Fellows. So fundamentally, it means that Al outranks everybody here in the room tonight, and that's just fine. Mr. Rubeling is a 1977 graduate of the University of Maryland, where he earned his professional degree in architecture. By 1981, only 5 years after graduation, Rubeling formed his own practice, Rubeling and Associates. Over the years, the firm gained a reputation for its high-quality commercial and institutional work. In 2014, Rubeling and Associates merged with the national firm JMT, a multidisciplinary engineering, construction, management, planning, and technology design organization. He now sits on the board of directors as the architecture practice leader and oversees operations in 12 states in 28 offices with over 1,300 employees. God bless you, Al. I don't know how you do it. Amazing. Rubeling authored How to Start Your Own Design Firm. He probably read the book, too. That's now he knows how to do it all. Published by McGraw-Hill in 1994, and which has since been republished in a second edition in 2007. He has guided seminars nationwide on the topic since the early 1990s. Rubeling's experience in contractual, legal, and business operations of architecture have been a great complement to our undergraduate curriculum. And since 2008, Rubeling has taught Architecture 478C, Careers in Architecture, to a largely undergraduate cohort of students. And this course provides students valuable insights into the practice and business of architecture and its allied professions. Importantly, Rubeling teaches the course so that it builds an awareness of the leadership potential latent in every student. So those of you sitting out there that are not currently in this course, I would think about taking it next year because it's going to help you. Many students who have taken the course have been able to proactively plan their career trajectories beyond their graduations from the University of Maryland. Annual course reviews have consistently scored this course to be among the favorite of undergraduates here at Maryland. The appointment of Mr. Rubeling as Key Professor is a fine reflection of the legacy of Paul H. Key, one of the two originally licensed architects in the state of Maryland. Key was known as much for the quality of his design work as he was for being an astute business person. Key and his wife, Grace, established the Key Distinguished Professorship in 1967 with an endowment of $10,000, which today is nearly $1 million in terms of its endowment. Invest, and you make money. And you make money for your alma mater now. The Key Distinguished Professorship has played an important part in the life of the school since that time and has brought eminent practitioners and scholars to come and enrich our lives. And I'm so happy that Al Rubeling is the 2016 Key Professor and is right in the trenches in the classroom in Architecture 478C. He's decided to step out of the trenches this evening and talk to us all. Alan.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
You all hear me?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been gifted with a loud voice. I'm part Irish. Well, at that introduction, I now have 3 minutes to do my presentation. So I thought I had 3 hours, but I have an hour, right? So this is great. This is really an amazing experience for me because I sat where you are 42 years ago. And it was, I went to 4 of these, I believe, and learned some things. And I'm going to tell you that what you're going to hear this evening is very different, I believe, than any key professorship presentation has ever been. So I need a show of hands here. How many grad students are here? Okay, come on, proud, get them out, let me see them. All right, how many seniors? Juniors? Underclassmen? Any 478 students? Who have I had in the room? 3. Come on, be proud. Get your hands up.
Stand up.
Stand up. Feel the power. Dale Carnegie, right? Well, this evening, I came totally prepared with technology. I had 3 backups. And of course, technology's not working. So thank God I brought old school notes. My notes are here, the presentation's here. So I'm going to be going back and forth. I hope you don't mind. So, I am this evening just not another architect coming in telling you how great I am or how challenging the designs I have or the backstory on those designs. As a student of leadership, I really wanted to give you a background on this topic and then really get into the lecture. Has anybody seen this movie? Yeah. I just saw immediate smiles. Isn't that cool? What movie is it? Ratatouille. So everybody has seen that. Ratatouille has a lot to do with this evening's lecture. What's this dude's name? That's his last name. What's his first name? Anton Ego. Anton Ego. You remember the scene when he's in the restaurant and he says to the waiter, the waiter says, "Monsieur, what would you like off the menu?" And he says, "Tell the chef to bring me some perspective. Bring me some perspective." And the waiter says, "Monsieur, I don't understand." And he says, "You tell the chef to bring me his best shot. I need some perspective because there's no perspective in this town. None." So what does the rat prepare? Ratatouille. What is ratatouille? Vegetable. It's squash. It's a peasant dish. The simplest of all. That is prepared for this Anton Ego, who is ruthless. And what happens when he tastes the ratatouille? The pen drops. He reflects back to his childhood. It has an amazing impact. His entire life goes in front of him. And he thinks about it, and it changes his life. It gives him a whole new perspective in how he writes. He gives his reviews on restaurants from that point forward. That's what I'm going to do here this evening. I certainly want to give you a perspective to help change your life. I've been a student of leadership since 1983. Just one day I woke up and said, "I love leadership." No, it was this book, Max Dupree. Anybody ever hear of Max Dupree? CEO Herman Miller. This guy wrote a great book, basically talked about leadership as an art. You're going to hear about my background in sports, business. The needs of a team are best met when the needs of the individual are met. Leadership is much more an art, much more a belief, a condition of the heart, a passion, than it is a set of things to do. One of my favorite movies, Anybody seen Dances with Wolves? Dances with Wolves. Who loves Kevin Costner? Right? Who doesn't? Anyway, great movie. Kevin Costner. This movie, Dances with Wolves, is a story of a U.S. cavalry officer left alone in the West, awaiting reinforcements that never arrive. Over time, he assimilates into the culture of the Native Americans and nature. In the teepee, there's the old dude. He's the chief. He's a storyteller. He talks about Tonga. What's Tonga? Buffalo. Everything in that picture is buffalo. They eat it, they dress in it, they create the leathers for the teepee. They depend on Tonga. It's their whole culture. It's their way of life. So here's this Indian chief storytelling. I am a very wealthy man. I'm wealthy in experiences and stories. I am a storyteller. So what is a leader? My favorite definition by Douglas MacArthur. Who is Douglas MacArthur? Some old guy. Anybody remember? If you're a boomer, you can't answer. Come on. He's a general. Somebody wiki it while I'm reading this. A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others. He does not set out to be the leader, but becomes one by the equality of his actions and the integrity of his intent. I love that. That's me. He was the commanding general in the Pacific Theater in World War II. 9 areas of leadership that I'm going to speak about. The gift I'm giving you is, everybody see that little red dot on the right? That's how close we are to the end. The end's the bottom. So you don't have to look at your watch, just watch the dot. Okay? I'm very friendly. I'm very friendly. The gravity's bringing it down. So I'm going to talk about these 9 areas of leadership, because you will be facing this throughout your life. If you took my class, this book had quite an influence on my life. I'd already been in practice for a while. 2007, Jim Cramer, who used to be head of the AIA, wrote this book. And in it he says, architects have long been fascinated with the myth of the singular genius, laboring away in a lonely garret, creating brilliant design out of nothing but raw talent. Howard Rourke, Fountainhead. If you're one of my students, you've seen the movie, and we compare Howard Rourke to the next architect. The fact is that architecture is a team sport. The next architect must develop excellent clientship skills. The next architect understands that we are in the leadership business and design is our medium. We are in the leadership business and design is our medium. You're here to learn about design and the whole process. But when you get out there, as I tell my students, that's viewed as being magical, but that's not everything. It's far from everything. Leadership is what makes a difference. Thought leadership. When I wrote my books that I've had published, I talk about the power of imagination. I tell Dr. Lowe, I always joke with him, that there are 2 divisions on campus that really teach imagination. It's architecture and astronomy. Astronomy, these people see stuff in black holes. I don't know how they see anything in there. But we're trained to really develop our imaginations. Out there with our clients, it's magical. There's a power, it's a gift. How do they do that? Can't believe you thought of that. So our value is more than just in design. We need to be strong in business leadership, and unfortunately, architects are pathetic in business. I've given seminars, 500-600 people in a room, and I ask the question, what is the definition of profit? A, Money left over at the end of the year. B, money you plan to make. Or C, a dude in the Bible. Architects always go C. They're so business adverse, it's amazing because design is everything. Law of relativity. Some dude Einstein. For the boomers in the room, Starship Enterprise, Star Trek. What was the name of the engineering officer?
Jordan Ford.
Who?
Jordan Ford.
Nah, I went the old one. Scotty, thank you. Scotty's the engineering officer.
Cooler.
Captain Kirk, I need more antimatter. I need more antimatter. What is antimatter? Spock, what is antimatter? Design is our matter. Leadership is our antimatter. What Einstein basically said and what Scotty always said is you need to have a balance on both to have the energy to be able to run this starship. We need to have it to be successful in our careers. This talk is about leadership serving others. I have a story about all these areas where I've been a leader. Volunteer leader, paid leader, what have you, in business. So I'm going to start with my family, where I started as a son, not these people, but I started out learning from my dad, and I tell people that I've been really blessed having children. I have 3 sons there, Kyle, Corey, and Colby, 31, 30, 29. I've had them for half my life. I can't remember the first half anymore. The joy of having children. The joy of paying for college. They're all out of college. There's no debt. They are all employed. They're off the dole. And what's really interesting is that when you raise these, it's really scary. They start saying things that you said. You're hearing yourself reflected back. And then one day, they show up and they hold a baby, and you automatically remember holding them like that. That is really freaky. And it's very humbling because you feel older. Not old, you feel older in the moment. The lady in blue is in the back. Dee, would you stand up? Dee is our antimatter. She holds us together. I share her saying in my class all the time, it's so easy today to be above average in today's self-absorbed world. Everybody's doing this. Point A to point B. Be considerate. Look at somebody in the eye. It's so easy to be above average because everybody's average. So you make that transition from being son, daughter like you are into being a parent, husband, father. You try to set examples of work ethics and things like that. And fortunately, in my case, that has worked out. Now, for all of us in the room that had parents, that's mine on the left. My father, I grew up in a baseball family, and he was a bit of a celebrity. He made it to the show. And a UPI photograph, this was given to me at my mother's funeral by a cousin, and said, "Isn't that Uncle Al on the left?" What a gift. I never saw this photo ever. This is the first moment he set foot on a Major League diamond playing Lou Gehrig and the New York Yankees. You look at his face, 27 years old. It was amazing to me. April 4th, 1940. The pride and the wonder. What he taught me was, always look up, look for role models. Look for people that you want to emulate. Now, in my world, my dad, it was with athletics. Mickey Mantle was one of my heroes. I hate the Yankees. I love Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle, I learned so much in my baseball career from his example. But I was also taught about the pyramid. We're going to talk about that for a little bit. Pyramid is the 1% at the top. Supposedly they're the heroes, they're the gods. And you're supposed to look up to them and use them as role models. The rest of us are down in the 99%. And so what I've learned over time is, are the heroes only in that 1%? I don't think so. The pyramid continues. Number 18 is my oldest son, about to get killed by those white goons. He's playing Division I lacrosse for Rutgers in the Carrier Dome in Syracuse, New York. Speed, strength, endurance, it gets higher and higher and higher as you go up in that pyramid. I go back and watch his brother play at Boys Latin in Baltimore, and I'm thinking the game's in slow motion. This game is so fast, it's unbelievable. So here we have the talent pyramid. At 1%, Michael Jordan, Cam Newton, Derek Jeter, Cal Ripken, Tiger Woods. The rock stars, Zaha Hadid, Bowen Shawinski, Ron Koolhaas. What about the rest? What about the 99%? Are they just not as good? Are they failures? Are they successful? Why do so many of my colleagues have a bit of a complex down there in regards to, I think it's sort of nice. I've never heard an architect say that building's really great. Somehow we learned code in architecture school is that's sort of nice. That's the best compliment you ever get from an architect. Serving others in high school. This is where I learned some stuff. There's an old school photograph. Had longer hair back then. I attended Parkville High in Baltimore County. I wouldn't be an architect today if I hadn't gone there. They introduced me to architectural drafting. I was active in student government, a desire to meet others, especially girls. I was a class officer, I was a student athlete, I was a co-captain of the varsity baseball team. I was a captain, I wasn't a leader. Leadership wasn't used back in those days. But I had dreams of following my father's footsteps. I was scouted and had tryouts with many Major League Baseball teams at that time, and I was offered an instructional league contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. My dad said, no, get your education. His regret, he played 1 year at Towson University in the Hall of Fame. He had .632, and he signed with the Cincinnati Reds in 1932. So now we come to Maryland. It's 1972-73. What's going on at that time? You're not even born. What's going on at that time? Say Vietnam. Vietnam. I think I want to do baseball. I apply to West Point, hedge my bet. Maybe I'll do engineering. Maybe I'll do architecture. If I go to West Point, I can do engineering. The most humbling event of my life. SAT score come back, and I'm in the 5 percentile. 5 percentile, not 95. 5 percentile. My father says, that's great news. The bottom of the class is always the first general. You can be like George Armstrong Custer and be the first general in your class. Now, those guys are all nerds up there. It wasn't co-ed at the time. And then my draft number came up 342. Not going in the military. So I had to decide what I wanted to do. So I went to community college for a year to figure it out. Play baseball, take some engineering courses. God, I hated engineering courses. And then I get this letter in July of 1973, and there's this fake signature, stamped signature on there. And I'm like, is that real? Who's John W. Hill? He's the dean of this building. I was accepted in the School of Architecture. Was this real? Dad and I come to College Park. We meet with Jack Jackson, the baseball coach. I know half the guys on the team. Meet with the athletic director. Happy to have me play Terrapin baseball. It's going to be great. So, yeah, what's your major? Architecture. Jack Jackson, this meeting's over. What do you mean this meeting's over? Son, all your classes are in the afternoon. Coach, you can change them, right? I did that in community college. I got all the classes in the mornings. I'm a student athlete. You don't know what you're getting into, do you? Those people are in a building over there, and they're a cult. They go in that building and they never come out. They sleep in that building. They eat in that building. They are really different people. You're going to have to make a decision, son. Baseball or architecture. I was devastated. We're driving home. It's raining just like it was today. Great things always happen to me on rainy days. My father says, "So son, what do you think?" "Dad, I'm really confused." "Well, I'm not. I'm going to architecture school." I wasn't in that 1% for baseball, but who knows about architecture? That's John Hill, upper left. The guy in the lower right's name was David Fogel. David Fogel, excuse me. David, I'm here because of David Fogel. He took a risk. I was on the bubble. It's like, this kid really shouldn't be here. But there's something about this kid, I don't know what it is. There was a gut feel. And he and John Hill decided to take a risk to let me into school. It was a real long shot. And he admitted that last year at the Dean's Circle dinner in front of everybody. So it was a risk. The 70s in architecture school. Students for a Democratic Society. Route 1 blocked. National Guard gassing students. What a time. Angry times, just like today. That photograph on the right. Roger Lewis with hair. Anybody know Roger Lewis? A few, right? I have some nice words about Roger in a few minutes. That's what the architecture school was back in that day. I survived it. Endurance contest. My 5th year, I did 44 credits in 2 semesters. Back then, you could take 44 credits and pay the tuition of $1,500. And I had a scholarship too, so it was great. For $750. And that guy in the upper right-hand corner, he was such a pain in the, he was so influential. Roger really teed me up for my career and really taught me a great deal of how to believe in myself. And through tough love. He was definitely tough love. Love the guy. So, Andy Pressman. Who's had Andy Pressman in here as a prop? Got a few, right? Professional practice. He wrote the book, right? 101. He did a great job summarizing what is it like when you're going to graduate. And I'm quoting some things here. Page 27. In chapter 1, practice, practice, practice. For whom should you design? 1, you can design for other architects. You get published. You enter competitions. You can get academic exposure. You feel cool. Everybody loves you. Number 2, you can design for clients. And as a subset of that, you can sell out. You can be a hack and be a plan mill. He goes on to say, although almost all architects fall into one of the 2 categories in general, in practice, most of us fall somewhere between the 2 extremes of a self-serving artiste or a compromising whore. Page 27. I was like, whoa! I've always been easy in my life, but I didn't think I was that. That's the conundrum out there. Am I designing for my colleagues to make me feel good to have all these nice pieces of paper on the wall? Or am I designing for somebody else? What's it all about? These are the folks that I like to work for. I like to impress. Not being a self-serving artiste or a compromising whore, that's not been my journey. Mine has been helping others, making a difference, enhancing the quality of life and value. It's never been about me, but my gift of imagination and my selfless ethos. It's about serving others. So in my career, start out as an intern, move on, get licensed at age 25, sole proprietor, painter, partner, and corporation director. Never been a painter, I want to be something. My wife's one. 1977, I'm lucky to get a job. There's this thing called the Arab oil embargo. Lucky to get a job. $5 an hour. $5 an hour. I'm king. My 2 early mentors. One was a Normandy Beach D-Day veteran. And the other is a former president, lower left-hand corner of the AIA, Charlie Ness. Princeton grad, great guy. It was a different time. They'd go out to lunch, we were firm in the morning, they'd go out to lunch, drink 3 martinis, be mad, then come back in, smoke in your face, hammered. Very different firm in the afternoon than in the morning. I thought this was my one job for my life. I was going to work there for the rest of my life and retire from there. We actually hand drafted, I know you can't believe this, there were no computers, no PCs, none of this, nothing. We had bone in our brains. They were a 4-function calculator. Charlie Ness was one of the architects that designed our building. He and Charlie Richter. Great firm in Baltimore, great mentor. Bill Barnes, the Normandy guy, dies of cancer. I'm 26 years old, and I'm like, wow, what's my future like? One of my students a few years ago, who's in this room, said to me, Al, you know, you were orphaned. I was angry for 40 years about thinking about that. And I was orphaned. My mentor died. And I went at age 26 and started my own firm. And it was an amazing experience for me. I was rabid about learning the business because no one in my family had ever started a business, let alone graduated from college. So there's my life, there's my career right there. The guys in the Smith School of Business love this kind of stuff. Start in 1981, goal $18,000, I do $32,000. I make enough money that I go visit John DeVena, my partner, he's working in Greece. The country Greece. First time in my life I flew in an airplane. I go over there and John comes back and haven't been able to get rid of him since. Comes to work for me. John, would you stand up? When I start, John finishes. John's a great guy. He's a terrapin, class of 77 with me. And John and I did all this. You can see we started. This is a .coms here. Then there's some other stuff back in here. And we grow and we grow and grow. And then all of a sudden, we hit that depression. It wasn't a recession. The liberal press wants you to think it's a recession. It's a depression. 55% unemployment. We dropped 46% in 1 year. 4% the next. 50% drop in 2 years in business. We have to sustain our firm. How do we do that? We bring it back up. We generated over $100 million in revenue, and I am proud of it. That people could buy cars and homes for their kids and what have you. And I'm also proud that we generated over $30 million in taxes during that timeline. And then that star in 2014 is when we merged and sold our firm to JMT, where my life has changed going from the head, number 1 of 28 people, to number 6 of 1,450 at the moment. So there are the business cards across time. Look at the red dot on the right. We're halfway. Anybody recognize this photograph? I know you don't. There's a number in the middle there. PT 109. Got a boomer in the room. Anybody? PT 109. What does that mean? Anything? Anybody?
JFK.
JFK. One of my heroes. God, I love that guy. He was so great at meeting people. He made you feel so good. He asked you a million questions when he met you. He found out everything about you. He didn't tell you anything about him. And when you left, you thought, God, he's a great guy. Well, because he had you talk about yourself for an hour. Okay? That's how he became president. He's a great guy. Okay? Well, he was a great leader. That's his PT 109, a 90-foot piece of plywood made in New Orleans. Enter JMT. So I go from a 90-foot piece of plywood that John and I can turn on a dime when we drop 46% and have to lay off people and go to 4-day work weeks. Now we're on the Ronald Reagan, the aircraft carrier. 5,000 people. It takes 20 miles to turn. It's not a dime. Very, very, very different experience as we go through that. That $100 million that I showed you, 34 years. At JMT, we do that in 6 months. Mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling running a company like that. So where did we start? Humble beginnings, very first project, upper right-hand corner. Everybody's got that, right? First boyfriend, first girlfriend, first project. Everybody's got that. You kept the photographs, right? We got that up there. That was a little office building we did. That generated over 200 projects in our career. Large banking projects, MBNA Bank and what have you, Maryland National Bank, the old days. Child Care Center for community college, independent day school. That's one of our big sources of business is in education. That grew to master planning. We do boarding schools. That happens to be Old Field School in the upper right-hand corner, Boys Latin School of Maryland, lower right-hand corner, and the Basilica of the Assumption in Baltimore, Benjamin Latrobe. Great experience being the architect of the original master plan and being asked by the Cardinal to get this guy, Jack Waite, who was the quintessential Latrobe architect in the country, restoration architect, who doesn't work with anybody. I had to convince this guy to work with Buyer Blinder Bell of Park Avenue, New York, to do the restoration. It's my job to pull that off, and which we did, because Buyer Blinder Bell was related to the History Channel, and that brought in about $50 million into this job. So anyway, very proud that I could tee that up and get that project to where it is today. We do a lot of religious work, historic restoration work, new churches, education work. These are all independent schools. And then this is some other religious work in other independent schools that we've had the really good fortune to work with our clients. One of the reasons why I love teaching is because when we get interviewed for projects, I can tell the folks interviewing us that I teach. And that's a differentiator. You're going to hear that word a little bit. And then a few years ago, we actually won an award with Baltimore Magazine, AI Baltimore, for my home out in Moncton. And I entered this for one reason, when I saw who the jury was. Because the jury was headed by my thesis critic. And if Frank Schlesinger didn't like this, and he taught me all this, I knew I had to have the winner, or he couldn't live with himself. So it was Tom Eichbaum and Frank led that. Serving others, American Institute of Architects. Some young guns here. That's Adam Gross on the left from Air St. Gross. Ed Hort in the middle, Hort Copeland and Mock to me, 1989, St. Louis Convention. I was very active with AIA Baltimore, Maryland, the AIA National Practice Committee, the Board of Directors, the Trust, and then the college over time. 1988 as a leader. I was involved with AIA Baltimore for 7 years. Every year we moved the office. Every year we moved. It was nomadic. It was awful. And I said, why don't we buy a building? And of course, they're all architects. They look at me like I'm an idiot. Where are we going to get this money? And we found a building that was actually owned by an architect in the upper right-hand corner in Baltimore. And we said, would you take back a first mortgage? He said, sure. He'd love the income. We bought that building in 1988 when I was president. And we still have it. And AIA Baltimore, because of that, buying that building, is in the top 6 components in the United States financially and in numbers of members. That's been a great investment. That component has well over $1 million in reserves because of that one move. We took an entrepreneurial approach to do that. Went on to AIA Maryland. It was a disaster at that time. We had some real issues with our lobbyists and what have you, some fraud and what have you. And we brought in the National to help us basically clean things up. And I met Governor Schaefer. Governor Schaefer proclaimed the month of October Architecture Month. We had the one and only event in the Capitol there that served beer and wine since George Washington, so they say, to celebrate architecture. And William Donald Schaefer became quite a fan of architecture, obviously, at that time, although a lot of out-of-town architects were hired. But then at the ripe old age of 37, I was elevated to fellowship in 1993 in Chicago because of all those works, as well as being on the board of directors in Washington representing architects in the Mid-Atlantic states. I went on to found the golf tournament, which has raised over $500,000 for the Latrobe Prize that goes to academics doing research. 4 years ago, I was asked, had the pleasure to play with that man in the circle, who's in the news a lot these days. And for having spent 5.5 hours with him, I'm always referred as his buddy. I won't go there. So, as Brian said in my 1-hour introduction, last year I was the chancellor of the college. It's a cool picture, isn't it? A lot of old people in there. But these people are amazing. Fellows are amazing. They're passionate about what they do, and they've been recognized. It's the highest honor the Institute can bestow on an individual for things that they've accomplished, either in their community or nationally or whatever. So, but there's been a bit of a conundrum that people don't really understand. Even the fellows don't understand what it means to have this honor bestowed on them. So during my tenure, we went through and did really amazing, invested a lot of money in studying the college and studying our fellows and getting a sense of getting the word out more about what we do. So we benchmarked our relevance, and guess what? We're doing it through storytelling. It's amazing. So our brand narrative that we created to make things exciting through all this was, as leading architects, there's that word, as leading architects, we just don't have the opportunity to change the horizon. We have the chance to change the way people live. We have the tools to contribute to society in profound ways, and we are committed to improving everyday life. As fellows, we are recognized as the leaders, the ones who seize the opportunity to be mentors to the next generation, the ones who elevate the profession, we are the ones who represent the values. We are the doers, we are the difference, we are the AIA College of Fellows. So in December, in movies, when you see producer, what does producer mean?
That's all the money.
I got to produce something. It wasn't my money, though. It's college's money. We produced the Leadership Institute. You can read that up there. What is leadership? Models of leadership, stages of leadership, leadership strategies, transition development, your personal leadership plan. 600 architects around the country on an Adobe live stream with Twitter afire. I actually tweet. I don't believe that, but I actually tweet. I had to in that position, because I'm dealing with a lot of young folks. And it was an amazing experience. Phil Freeline was our keynote speaker. It was a great day in December. So we got to deal with that. Serving others. There are programs around the country called Leadership. Leadership Baltimore County. Quickly on this. You get this, you commit a day a month. In this case, you shadow with a school principal for a day to see what education is like in your area. Public safety, you actually ride in a police cruiser for 8 hours. I was in this police cruiser, we pulled over a stolen car in front of a restaurant. And the policeman says to me, the release for the shotgun is right here. I may need you. It's not an act. We're in front of this restaurant. People walking in the restaurant are friends of mine. They see me in the police car. They're thinking, what's Al doing, right? This guy pulls over. I mean, it was amazing. I went to a suicide that evening. I mean, so you get to see what it's like to be a public servant. You meet with the county executive. You meet with the governor. You learn about economic development. Social services, disability programs. I had to be in a wheelchair for 6 hours. Anybody been in a wheelchair? Different, isn't it? As an architect, gave me a really appreciation for ADA. You have to go to the bathroom in a wheelchair, and you can't cheat. It's interesting. Because of that program, meeting the county executive, he calls me up one day and says, I want you to chair a design competition for landscape architects. The Richard and Annette Block Cancer Survivors Park. Mr. Block is the R of H&R Block. He gave $1 million to 50 cities. Over an election, this gets lost in the shuffle. New county executive, Mr. Block doesn't see anything happening. He wants his $1 million back. I get a phone call. I walk into this room, it's the whole county council, and they're like, what do we want to do? Has anybody thought about talking to Mr. Block about it? Anybody want to see him? They end up sending me out to Palm Springs, California to play golf with Mr. Block. Not bet the $1 million on the match, but to save the $1 million for the county. We fly this model out there. I'm with the Director of Recreation and Parks. And Mr. Block says, we're at his house in Rancho Mirage. So what's with this design? And I said A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. He goes, wow, I didn't know that. That's great. You want, let's go have lunch. We walk out the door, and the director of Rec and Park says, I never heard that before. Where'd that come from? I said, that's my interpretation. I just made that up, and we just sold the whole thing. I mean, we saved $1 million from the county. You had to quit with your feet. But it was my interpretation. The landscape architect's writing of it wasn't inspirational enough for Mr. Block. So we had to be a little creative. That then led on to some work where I went to school at CCBC, being on a foundation board, working with the county executive and what have you, raising funds for students that need a lot of help even at that level. And then, having met the governor, I got appointed for 7 years to the Maryland Board of Architects, overseeing the registration laws in the state of Maryland. And that was a great gig, getting a sense of how architects work. And then one of the biggest honors I've ever had was being on the Dean's Circle here, being on the former Dean's Advisory Committee, and now on the Board of Visitors, trying to get a sense of how can we maintain and make this curriculum here relevant in regards to what's going on in practice. Great group of people, and it's really a lot of fun to work with them, talking about what's going on out there in the world. We talked about the 2 books that I basically wrote. People say to me, how'd you find the time to do these? I would get up at 4:30 in the morning and write from 4:30 until 6. When I taught myself Word at the time on a laptop. That's how I wrote the first book in 88 days. To go through and do that. Because that's the only time, because I was coaching kids in sports and running the firm and doing all that kind of stuff. So you just have to manage your time, as my students know. We talk a lot about time management. How many hours are there in a week, my students? 168. I was telling my folks coming down here, I'm amazed at all the students that have all this technology and they don't use any time management stuff. Amazing. Anyway, I've spoken on this topic, AIA, Ohio, Texas, Virginia, DC. I've been a guest lecturer up at Yale. It's been great stuff to talk about the business side of architecture. I also have Jim Kramer, who I mentioned earlier. I'm on the Design Futures Council for Thought Leadership, and he asked me to write an article on design intelligence, it's an oxymoron, about how did you sustain your firm through this depression? Lessons learned from the new unnormal normal. And this was quite controversial in regards to how one tries to survive. Through my sons, I was involved as a parent, volunteer, board of trustees, named an honorary alum at Boys Latin. One of the things that led to me to that was I love the school. Their motto is to be rather than to seem. And I love that. I love that. They ingrained that in my kids, and I've given back a lot there. And we've been fortunate to do over $30 million worth of work for them. That's the new stadium that we did for them a few years ago. Hillendale Country Club, I've been a member there. I love to play golf. But I've been on the board of governors. I've done long-range planning, helped them with their facilities. You meet people. You get business that way. You give back. Every year I have a tournament the day before Thanksgiving. 60 guys come out to play, no matter what the weather is. They can't wait. We celebrate a 5-day weekend on giving thanks and being grateful. So think about that. This past year, my theme was happy. What happens in my class for my students when somebody uses that word? We stop the class. You never hear the word happy out there. You never hear it. We stop. Wow, somebody's happy. Let's talk about it. We got to learn from that. Somebody's happy. Oh my God. Because we're all point A to point B. So this year the theme was my sister, 72-year-old, pancreatic cancer, given 6 to 8 weeks to live. She's 1 in 3 million that beats it. Beats it for a year. Never angry. Her nickname's Happy. She's always happy. I tell these 50 knuckleheads that are there, when you got to your car today, before you start up, just sit there for a minute. Reflect on your life and say, what am I happy about? When you get home, tell your family what you're happy about tomorrow at Thanksgiving. I say the same thing to you. When you leave here, just stop and think about one thing that you're happy about and share that with your friends, because it's infectious, because you never hear it. You never hear it. My kids went to a school called St. James. I started there in 1987 as an architect doing the work. Went through as a parent, committee volunteer, board of trustees. I headed a search committee for a new head because I was involved here for a dean as well as one of Boys Latin, and great way to give back in time. Here's my laboratory. I love you guys. We have fun. We focus on entrepreneurship. We focus on leadership, differentiation, perspective, and balance. All that thought content as we go through, because our goal is to make you different. You're not going to be a person in black. Architects always wear black. You're going to be somebody. You're going to go out when you interview, when somebody says to you, the potential firm owner, can I see your portfolio? Before I show you my portfolio, can I ask you what you look for in an intern? You'll blow their gaskets. They can't handle that. They're focused on, they want to see your work. Not that it matters, you're not going to sign anything. And you say, no, I'm curious, what are you looking for? And if they say A, B, and C, you come back and say, well, I can do A, and I can do B, and I can do C. And they go, wow, this person's really great. Maybe I ought to hire them. Totally different mindset in regards to how to promote and sell yourself. Entrepreneurial. Google this when you get back to your dorm tonight, the why. I want you to watch this. This will change your life. Our class saw it yesterday. This guy, Simon Sinek, is amazing. It's all about the why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do. They don't buy John and I because we do architecture. They buy it because why we do it. Our passion, our heart, our trustworthiness, our commitment. Our clients tell us that. It's not because this building was so beautiful. The building works. The building is great looking, aesthetically pleasing. But it's the heart that gets into it. That's why people hire you. It's chemistry. Your portfolio helps. The chemistry sells the day. TED.com. Anybody ever hear of TED.com? You watch TED? Would you believe that was invented by an architect? I had the same thing. An architect. Oh my God. What a geek. I mean, really? An architect did that. I've taken the why to the College of Fellows, and I've done it with JMT. It has amazing results. We also talk about the E-Myth. Our students, we basically assess their behavioral characteristics to see how entrepreneurial, managerial, or technical they are. I am amazed that people get hired and you just look at a piece of paper and say, oh, they're good. You get 8 seconds to make a great first impression. How many people go into business and say, hey, dude, let's get in business? They have no idea what their strengths are. I had a partner like that once. We both wanted to do the same thing. It didn't work. Somebody's got to be entrepreneurial, somebody's got to be managerial, and somebody's got to be technical. Technical people do the work. The managers make sure they do it on time, and the entrepreneurs just wreak holy havoc and bring the work in. But you got to have that. John and I have had that for 35 years. He's been the M, I'm the E, we have this other guy that's the T. The T guy hates clients. Leave me alone, let me get the work done. Where will you fit when you get out there? That's the biggest gift we give you from this class, is you're going to know where you're going to fit in with the firm when you get out there. You're going to know where you fit in on the pyramid. So because of all that is why I'm standing up here, and Brian gave me that nice hour introduction. That's why I'm the key professor this year. So what's my role today? Imagine that. I'm the old sage, the mentor. I'm the Indian chief, talking about Tonga. I am to be an inspiration. I generate thought leadership. The genetics of understanding the professional leadership life and the secret of maintaining balance in your life. You work hard, you have a vision, you know your why. Stop comparing yourself to others. You are unique, and as Dee says, be considerate. Be happy. Focus on that. Everyone has a story to tell. After spring break, my class comes to my office. I bring back all alum of this school that worked at Rubeling, that are all gone, working at Air St. Gross and the enemy. They come back and they tell their stories to the students. Because 8, 10, 12, 15 years ago, they were in the same seats as students were, scared to death that I might get a job. And they're all out there working. And guess what? They're all different. Ethnicity, gender, path, what they're doing. It's amazing. It's wonderful. So the students don't hear from the old guy. And then we break for pizza and we network. And it's helped get some of them a job, which has been great. What is your legacy? I have the students do the weirdest thing. First class, they write their obituary. Weird. Imagine writing your obituary. You're 20 years old. Everybody dies at 160 in an airplane crash or something, usually. 15 weeks later, we review it with final exam. It's amazing in 15 weeks how that would have changed. Take it one day at a time and success, but one day at a time. So what's leadership done for me? Well, I've had an amazing life, amazing experiences and stories. They all have one thing in common in serving others. I believe that when you take the initiative, take the focus off of you, not be narcissistic, but be considerate and reach out to help others, life gives you amazing things back. I truly believe that I'm here to assist others and enhance their lives. Try it, you won't regret it. I am very comfortable being at 99%. So here's one of the last diagrams I'm going to show you. It's the herd. So when you're in business out there, where's the firm you're working for? So over here is, I'm doing basement alterations for a client in a house. I'm making up a bar in a basement. And over here are museums and aviation and embassies. And usually those people get a lot more money to do that than they get for doing a basement. So this goes from low to high in regards to fees, and from small jobs to big jobs. So upper right-hand corner, anybody recognize that building? Same architect. Disney Opera House. Frank Gehry. He's a star architect. High fees. Big time jobs. I met a guy in St. Martin 3 years ago who's somewhere in here doing residential. But he does it in Sag Harbor, New York. That's Paul McCartney's house. He gets paid the same fee to design a house for Sir Paul as John and I get through an elementary school. It's amazing. So you can be all over the place here. Most architects are in the herd. And what we try to do is try to get us over here as much as possible in the herd in making a difference. And how you differentiate yourself in that herd is through leadership. It's just that simple. So being here, I have been trying to introduce this at the crossroads of academia and business. But upon graduation, I had options, that being the artiste or the whore. I decided to be in between, but I was going to I didn't want to be recognized so much by my colleagues, but by the community. I voted for enhancing the community's quality of life. I love attending ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, toasts, and what have you. I love seeing people's lives making a difference for them. So here I am, your Anton Ego, giving you perspective on life, a life in the herd, differentiating myself through a joyful life of leadership, knowing my why, helping others, leaving a legacy, not one of creative narcissism, but one of inspiration, one of selfless consideration, one of direction, success, and perspective. As I've said, I've been a successful man. I have a life rich in experiences. Look what I've learned by serving others. My family, staff, students, colleagues, they've all taught me well. I've been blessed and had a wonderful life. What I learned from my dad, my coaches, mentors. You don't have to be in that top 1%. Simon Sinek, the why. Watch that, because I take it to be people don't follow you for what you do, but why you do it. So in life, at our end, our tombstone summarizes our life this way. That's my dad. The date of our birth and the date of our death. What's that object between those dates?
Dash.
A dash. Dash. My dad's entire life is graphically represented in a dash. What is the story behind your dash? What does the dash represent? What did you achieve? How did you make a difference? What is your legacy? Good luck in your chosen career. If it's architecture, enjoy it. I love it. Remember that we are in a leadership business and design is our medium. The red dot's almost at the bottom. As architects, we are so much more than just design. Our antimatter is magical out there. May you figure out that a successful life does not have to be in the 1%. It can be in that 99%. Differentiate yourself, be considerate, be above average. Be proud of your accomplishments. Be proud of your diploma when you get it from here. Just don't hide it in a drawer somewhere. Be proud of that. Most importantly, take care of your health. It's the most important variable in your journey of success. One of my favorite quotes from Pericles: "What you leave behind is what is engraved in stone monuments. It's what is woven into the lives of others." Take it one day at a time, make it happen. I want to thank Dean Cronrath, Professor Kelly, President Lowe, Provost, for allowing me to be a storyteller here today. Thank you.
So we have some time for some questions.
Some, I'm thirsty, but it's okay. We'll take some. Any questions? It's like my class. Comments?
So why did you choose architecture?
Why did I choose it? My sister, I mentioned, used to take me out on Saturdays to construction sites. She got me dirty, and the other sister cleaned me up. I like construction. Architecture in high school, I really enjoyed that. Always enjoyed buildings, looking at buildings. I really always liked to draw. Remember, there's no computers, right? So charcoal, used to like to do that. And but I was torn: baseball, architecture, engineering, and as you can see, other forces make decisions for me. And thank God for David Fogel, because I would be here without him. Excuse me. And it was one of those things that once I got into architecture, and it was more than buildings. I mean, the second year, for me, that was a 5-year program. It was such a different thing that I just didn't expect it at all. I didn't see it coming. And I had Marshall Purnell as a critic, which was interesting. And it was mind-boggling to me, but I just fell in love with it. And I was just bent that I was going to do this for a career. And what I learned was it just wasn't buildings. Because as architects out there, contractors and owners expect us to lead. They don't want us hiding behind mistakes or anything. They want us to make decisions for them as we go through. And unfortunately, our profession's given that up a lot. It's unfortunate. There's another comment or question here. Just
You talked a lot about leadership, but I wonder if you have a definition for
Douglas MacArthur. We'll get into it. I mean, it's something that you don't, I didn't know I was a leader. I was always a loudmouth, right? I was the guy on the baseball field. I was like Larry Bird, or, I knew what was going on the whole, I could call a game. So I had a respect and a passion for something. So you have to have that to be a leader, but it's not about you. It's about your teammates, or it's about your employees, or it's about your client, or it's about the people in the nonprofit you're working for. It's disabled, it's whatever. You're doing it for them. It's not you. You're just an agent. You're a voice. So if you have that ability to stand up in front of people and speak, and you can inspire people, right? That's what it's about, because you want to empower people. And that's what I love about MacArthur's definition, is because I didn't know that. And that's what makes the best leaders, because it's not about them, but they want to give back for some reason. And I can only get that back in my ethos because of what my parents taught me when I was a kid. You just help people. When somebody needs help, you help them change a tire, or you shovel their snow, or you do whatever. You don't ask for money, or you're not entitled to anything. You got to work hard. You have to prove yourself. And unfortunately, I was one of the negative outcomes of me being in Catholic school was I felt like I was always scared. It was an element of fear, and I always wanted to please people. I wanted people to like me. And because of that, it was one of those things I would always go out of my way to try to serve people, what have you. But because of that, it was something that I turned around and was able to learn from it. And when you're a true leader, you don't do something to say, well, if I do this, I'll get that. No, that's fraudulent. You just don't do that. You do this because you want to do that, right? If you don't want to do it, don't do it. A leader will get somebody else. My company, J&T, wants me to get involved in a major health nonprofit. We want you to be, because why? We want you to get out there and meet people. Well, I'm not really passionate about heart disease. I'm not really passionate about this or that. I got to be passionate about something. I just can't do it. I got to really be into it, right? So that's where it comes from. It's the heart, the soul that comes down. So I don't know where it is. I mean, I took time off when I was chancellor and traveled the United States for a year. It was great, but I'm on time out right now. I'm here, but not doing a board of visitors. But I'm waiting to see what the next call is. And it's going to happen because of this or something else. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to worry about it. It'll happen. Stan?
So I noticed that on almost every slide, you had that talent diagram. So is that something that you sort of carried from?
It's a conscience. It's burned in the back of my brain. You know? It's like no matter where you go. You know, one of the hardest things to get into parents' brains these days, especially helicopter parents, is that, especially when it comes to being student athletes, your son or daughter is pretty good. But they're probably somewhere in here. They may not be up in here. But every parent thinks they're up here. Okay? They're not. I've witnessed that. Not only in my life, with baseball, with my sons playing, two of my sons playing collegiate lacrosse. When they get up to that level, my God, those athletes are amazing. And they're smart ones too. I mean, this isn't the classic, kid just getting by. I mean, my son had a 3.8. I mean, he did graduate in 4 years. It's amazing. You see him as a student athlete on the team. But a lot of these, like Duke and Yale and Harvard, they've got great student athletes, right? So I mean, but they're amazing. They can run all day. They're fast. But not everybody can get a scholarship for athletics. It just doesn't work that way. Those people don't understand the pyramid. They just don't. It's important. If you want to look at Michael Jordan and say, well, I want to be like him, excuse me. Are you? There's only one Michael Jordan. I mean, I can't jump that high. I don't like when you're Michael Jordan, but it's like, but many people do. How many people want to play in the NBA? How many people want to do, whatever. That applies the same thing in architecture. You want to work for a firm or what have you. Who do you want to work for? How can you differentiate yourself? Because you're in that 99%. And if you want to work for Gensler or one of those top firms up there, how am I going to differentiate myself and get them to hire me? Right? That's just a goal. It's just a conscience there. That's why I had it on the slides. Good point. Glad you saw that.
As a leader, you always learn from the people who you're leading. Can you remember something that was significant that you learned from, whether it's a student or somebody who was in your office that really...
Reverse mentored me. The guy in the room who said, Al, you were orphaned. Hit me like a brick. I've been angry for, like I said, 30-some years. Like, I didn't have a mentor. I'm like pissed off about that. All these kids had these great mentors. It's like, I can't, I lost my guy. I had to do it on my own. I've been out here slugging it out. Because you look at that curve and I see all my other friends going for the big firms, they're doing this work in China, or they're doing whatever, it's like, God, don't look at other windows, keep the course, move along. And then when he said I was orphaned, it just put it on, that blew me away. I actually cried that night. We're not going to have that night. Somebody else.
After you apply for a job at a place, how long do you wait before you contact the candidate?
It's like a date, right?
There's a lot of Seinfeld.
Yeah, there is a lot of Seinfeld. It's like a date. You know, it's in the gut, it's in the mind. I mean, you know, am I going to be up the butt? What's it going to be? Do I send flowers? Do I do this? What do I do? You know, do I have to show up in the neighborhood? You know, on. Yeah, and lawyers like to say it depends. You know, I'm sorry, it depends. I mean, if you really hit it off, you have to be clever and somehow say you're not stalking somebody, but you know you run into them somewhere, or they might know somebody. You can go work it that way, whatever. But I'll say it this way: if the firm's really worthwhile and they really want you, they'll get back to you pretty quickly. The challenge is that so many architects speed and they do so many balls up in the air, they forget about you. No offense, but you're like over here, and it's like, I got to get this client, I got this fire put out, I got to do all this kind of stuff. For a firm like ours, we have an HR group that they would love to hear from you every day, because they'll coach you along. Yeah, it's okay, you're right. Yeah, but usually the bigger firms handle that better than the smaller firms. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's fair.
It depends. There's another hand up. No, over here, sorry.
So do you think with that definition of leadership, and that everybody's in the 99% except for 1%, do you think everyone in the 99% could strive to be leaders?
Mm-hmm. You can be a leader in different ways, right? Everybody has 15 minutes, right? Andy Warhol. I mean, it just depends. I mean, you can be a leader, you're out and there's a car accident, and people with your adrenaline let the car up and save somebody's life. They're a hero, right? I mean, they showed some leadership because they had some gumption. There was a miracle they did, right? Whatever. Let's talk about EMT. You have entrepreneurial leaders, you have managerial leaders, and you have technical leaders, okay? A technical person doesn't really want to be bothered a lot. They don't want to really bother the client. They just want to do the job. I want to detail the building, and I want it to work, and just leave me alone. But they can be a leader by passing on their knowledge to the younger people, to mentor them. So that's a leadership. Don't ask that person to get up and do what I'm doing right now, because they're frozen. They're like, I can't do this. Right? We only give them speaking parts and presentations. It's the way, I'll do the job for you. So technical people can be leaders. Managers can be leaders. How can we better measure this? And they talk amongst each other. They can be a leader to the people that they're managing, right? So they can set a good work ethic. They can be inspiring. They can empower people and not be a jerk and upset people. It's all about that, right? Yeah. And then the entrepreneurial leaders are those that have a vision to go out and try to bring the work in, or make the clients feel right, or help put the fires out better because they're good on their feet, kind of thing, right? So the challenge in our profession is, because in my opinion, because leadership is, 80% of architecture firms are 2 people or less. 80% of architects work for 2% of firms. There's one reason for that. Architects want to do it all. Those small firms, they can't do it. They want to do it all. They can't be leaders. It's hard for them. Larger firms, the AIA is just pushing leadership big right now, because it's needed in our profession. We learned that in the economy. There's a huge difference in the economy. People that were leaders, is that thunder? God speaking. It must be true. It must be true. But that leadership got out of our firms.
So Al, I want to thank you. This has been a great evening. I have a takeaway for myself, which is that pyramid, nested within that pyramid are many pyramids.
Amen.
And figuring out which pyramid is your pyramid is really a kind of key thing. I think it's been really great this evening. You guys shared with us a lot of great insight. You brought some tears to my eyes as you told your story, your many stories, your father's story. And we really want to thank you for being here. Continue this discussion for many years to come.
Amen.